going on, everybody? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Now, coming up on today's show, Mike Clay of ESPN dropped some stat predictions for every single player on the Vikings roster. So I thought today we'll start off with the offense, finish off with the defense on the second half of today's show, and just dive into where Mike Clay could possibly be right, but also a couple spots where he was just flat out wrong. Let's start off here with the quarterbacks. And he does have Kyler Murray being the starting quarterback one for the Minnesota Vikings offense this season. And here's what he thinks Kyler is going to do. He's going to complete 331 of 490 passes, go for just over 3,300 passing yards. A little low for a Kevin O'Connell offense, I thought. But then he's got 19 touchdowns, 10 picks, 443 rushing yards on the ground, and 3 touchdowns. So you see these stats. May not look like a full season because it's not. He thinks J.J. McCarthy will get in there for at least 2 games. He's got JJ going 54 of 86, 599 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, and 44 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. So he thinks the Vikings overall as a passing offense will get just about under 4,000 yards, throw for 22 touchdowns, 12 picks, have about 500 rushing yards on the ground, and 4 total rushing touchdowns. So good production from the quarterbacks this season, but on the ground with the running backs. This is where I thought Mike Clay just, and this is everybody who talks about the Minnesota Vikings. Like, unless you're a Vikings reporter or you're dedicated to covering the Vikings, like, I feel like people just have no idea what they're talking about. And I think a good example here is Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, I promise you, will not get more carries than Jordan Mason this upcoming season. I think it's absolutely ludicrous. He also didn't even mention Damon Claiborne getting any carries here. But he actually has the Vikings being a pretty productive rushing offense. I mean, you got Jordan Mason going for 749 yards, Aaron Jones 740, so just about 1,500 yards combined between the both of them, 9 rushing touchdowns on the ground. If that's the year we're getting combined from both these guys, we're feeling great. He also had Aaron Jones, I think it was like 400 receiving yards as well, so he had him having a monster season. I just can't really see that being the case with Aaron Jones. I think it's going to be a lot of Jordan Mason early on in the season. Jones will still be mixed in, but then it's going to be Damon Claiborne carrying the rest. But at the receiving group here, kind of disagree with a couple of these for Mike Clay. Like Justin Jefferson, I think that's a fine stat projection. Like, he's not a huge touchdown guy, but he's always a high reception and high receiving yards guy. But this is where I had my disagreement. Jordan Addison, 770 yards, 5 touchdowns. I think Addison would be closer to 1,000 than 750, but not a big gripe here. But my biggest gripe is Juwan Jennings and T.J. Hockenson. I don't think T.J. Hockenson is going to catch the second most amount of passes for this Vikings offense this season. And him going over 639 yards, yes, I think Hawk will be a nice safety net, a nice safety blanket for Kyler Murray or J.J. McCarthy. But Juwan Jennings, he will have more than 486 yards this season. If you honestly just flip Juwan Jennings and T.J. Hawkinson's numbers, I would probably agree with that a little more, like his fair stat projection for Josh Oliver there. But I just think he's kind of underselling Juwan Jennings a little bit, and he's a little overrating T.J. Hockenson just a little bit. But I'll tell you what, Mike Clay, probably the most embarrassing take I've ever seen on the Minnesota Vikings. Probably the worst take ever. This guy's got Will Reichard missing an extra point. He's got Will Reichard missing 4 field goals this season. This is the best kicker in football. This is my favorite player on the Minnesota Vikings. And Mike Clay, I would just say be better than this. If Will Reichard didn't hit a wire last season, he would have went perfect on extra points, field goals. This guy is stone cold. Also, if you guys haven't seen the Vikings schedule release video, Will Reichard, this guy's got a future in acting. He is just perfect on camera. Like, he is just such a draw. And I like how the Vikings are kind of leaning into Reichard's kind of, I don't want to call it like dorky personality, but just like typical kicker personality. Like, he's got, his one sponsorship is Walmart. Like, I just think Reichard's a hilarious guy, and he's also just stone cold, man. And he was still throwing up 3 to the dome. His favorite basketball player ever was Carmelo Anthony, so him taking Melo's 3 to the dome, I thought it was awesome. But Mike Clay, you're out of your damn mind if you think Reichard's missing 5 kicks on the season. But on the Vikings offense, what do you guys think? The Vikings will have a top blank offense in the National Football League this season. What do you guys think down below? I think they'll be top 15. Don't know if I can go top 10, but I'll go top 15 here for the Minnesota Vikings. You guys chime in down below in the comments section. We'll get to the defense here in just a sec, but I do want to give a massive shout out to our good friends at Prize Picks. And if you guys use promo code HMA, we'll hook you guys up with $50 instantly in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. The app is really easy to use. Just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Prize Picks is available in most states, including California, Texas, Florida, New York, and of course, Minnesota. And they already have some season-long projections on Prize Picks. We got a 3-player lineup here where it's a power play, $20 to win 120, just taking the more on Jackson Dart passing touchdowns. Dak Prescott, the less on his passing yards. Jalen Hurts, the less on his rushing touchdowns. So I like that lineup. But you guys can fade it or you guys can tail it. Just make sure you guys do so at Prize Picks. And you guys can also follow your friends and others on the app like you would on any other social media platform. You guys can follow me on the app. At Pat Sieps is my handle, PATSIEPS, to see all my lineups there. But sign up for Prize Picks with code HMA. Get $50 in lineups instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Start off with the big fellas in the interior of the defensive line. That's what Mike Clay's got. He's got Jalen Redmond, 64 tackles, 4.1 sacks as his projection, and getting just under 800 snaps. Now, do I think Jalen Redmond is going to be a 6, 7, 8 sack, a season guy in his NFL career? No, but I just think the projection of 4.1 is a little low. I would probably have it around 5.5 is what I would set the over-under at. So, like the Jalen Redmond one, at least he was giving him some love. Like if he had Jalen Redmond at like 2 sacks, 25 tackles this year, would be more evidence of him just not, knowing the Minnesota Vikings. But then you got Caleb Banks, the first-round pick. Pretty fair here. 586 snaps. I think 3 sacks, 42 tackles. Like, would that be a successful season for Caleb Banks? Wouldn't necessarily think that. I think if Caleb Banks is at 3 sacks, if he's got 12 TFLs, and really with defensive linemen, the stats don't really tell the full story, really the tape does, so it's tough to judge here. But he does have Levi Drake Rodriguez getting 2 sacks this upcoming season. Also with Caleb Banks, I didn't add it on the graphic. He had him as 0.1 interception, so maybe he thinks Banksy is going to get a pick at some point this season. But Levi Drake Rodriguez, 47 tackles, 2 sacks there, 554 snaps. Now, he doesn't have Dominique Orange playing too much. He's got him at 320 snaps, 1.3 sacks, 23 tackles. I would probably change that. Maybe you lower Levi Drake Rodriguez to about 450. Move Dominique Orange around 450 as well. That's probably where I would put it. But then he's got Elijah Williams, 234 snaps, 17 tackles, and just under 1 sack. But this is my biggest gripe with Mike Clay, probably even more than the Will Reichard slander. Dallas Turner, 6.2 sacks this season. That's the projection. The guy had 9 last season, and he was, playing 50% of the snaps up until Jonathan Gennard got hurt. When he was getting full-time snaps at the edge rusher position, he was almost averaging a sack a game. So, listen, am I saying he should project 12 sacks for Dallas Turner? No, I would at least project 9, 10 sacks for DT. Maybe he's just not the biggest fan of him, but I think that's just a little silly. Andrew Van Ginkel, honestly, I would take away a couple of sacks from Van Ginkel and give him to Dallas Turner. If you want to put Gink, at 5 sacks, 4 sacks, probably feels about right. But also, Van Ginkel, only 0.9 interceptions. I would probably put that at 1.9. I think Van Ginkel's going to have another good year there. But he's got Tieran Ingram-Dawkins, 2.3 sacks, Tyler Batty at 1.3 sacks, and Bo Richter at 1/3 of a sack this season. But now the linebackers here, he's got Blake Cashman filling it up. 181 tackles and 4 sacks and a half a pick for Blake Cashman. So he's thinking the Cashman's going to have a big-time season. Eric Wilson, he's got him at 96 tackles, 4.2 sacks, and 0.1 interceptions. Feels about right for Eric Wilson, but this is also where I think it's just a little silly from Mike Clay. Jake Golday, listen, the Vikings spent the 51st pick in the draft. He's playing more than 96 snaps. Maybe it's only 200, 300, but he will be out there a whole lot for this defense. I could even see him, having more snaps at the end of the year than a guy like Eric Wilson, just because of how athletic he is. He is a very raw prospect. Now, maybe it is necessarily just a redshirt year for Jake Golday, but I think he's going to play more than that. Then Ivan Pace, 64 snaps feels about right. He'll only get in there if there's some injuries going on. But yeah, that's where the linebacker room shakes out. Now, with the quarterback room, what I thought was interesting, I see on the 3rd line there, James Pierre. He had him at 2.4 interceptions this season. So you think he's going to be a little bit of a ball hawk for this Vikings defense? We got Byron Murphy at 1.3 interceptions, Isaiah Rodgers at 0.8, and Charles Demings at 0.1, only playing 53 snaps this season. Now, also keep in mind, he had only Byron Murphy and Isaiah Rodgers really getting consistent snaps. He had James Pierre. He was about 400 snaps, but with 2.4 interceptions, that's pretty good ROI on his snap count if that ends up being the case. But, agree for the most part on the cornerback room. Now, where I really disagree is what he had to say about the safety room, and specifically my guy, Jacoby Thomas. He doesn't think he's going to play that much this season. I think that's ludicrous. I think Jacoby Thomas, maybe it's not early on in the season because Brian Flores' defense is, The one thing about Jacoby is, like, I'm very excited to see him play, but, like, especially the safety position with Brian Flores' defense, you got to know what everybody is doing on any given play. So maybe it's like the first month of the year, he's just a special teamer, rotational guy. But I think he's going to end up playing more than Jay Ward at least by the end of the year, and then even like Theo Jackson. But he's got Josh Metellus having a good year, do it all safety. Theo Jackson is being that free safety next to him, and Jay Ward, mixing his game in. But he does have the Vikings' projected wins 7.5, not that high. I don't understand why people don't like the Vikings. I feel like people are so scarred from them last year, but last year they had the third worst quarterback play in the league. And I know it's like such a chalk, basic take, but like I almost feel like it's too basic that it makes almost too much sense. Where it's like you have the third worst quarterback play in the league, you win 9 games, you have a top 5 defense, you have Kevin O'Connell, Justin Jefferson, a good offensive line, the best wide receiver trio in the league, and a former number 1 overall pick at quarterback. Face value, that's a team who's winning double-digit games. So I don't understand it. Again, like I was higher on the Vikings last year. They didn't live up to my expectations, but they still won 9 games. I think bare minimum, this team's winning 10 games this season. I think it will be around 10 to 12. See what happens. Obviously, you guys stay healthy, but like last year, the Vikings, injuries killed them. Like I still think if J.J. McCarthy is healthy the entire season, Vikes probably win 10 games that are in the playoffs because I would just believe that J.J. would get more comfortable, get better week after week after week. But he disagrees. 7.5 wins. If the Vikings go 7-10, I would be, very, very upset and very, very surprised. I don't think it's going to be the case. I got them going 12-5 this year, but you guys predicted for me down below. What's the Vikings record going to be in 2026? I got 12-5. Producer Dylan's got 11-6, but you guys chime in down below what you think the Vikings record's going to be, and we'll see you guys next time. As always, let's go Vikes.